I'm going to turn it over to Meg McBride, our learning technologist and expert, and a lot of things, but she also is working with a lot of you in these Turnitin, and you've got some great experiences too, so feel free to share. She'll be asking for your comments. Okay.
Hi, everyone. We have a couple of people who are going to speak to the app or the software program, Turnitin. Two of them are in Zoom, and I just want to make certain they're here. Both of them are here? Okay. Good job, Nikki. All right, so we're going to do a quick share of, which one did I have, Firefox? Nope. Sorry, I got to find my stuff. Okay, Turnitin is, before we get started, this was an idea of Heidi's, just to get a feel for who has used Turnitin and feels comfortable with Turnitin in its native form. So what I'm asking for is if people online, you can go to the participants list and select the green check mark if if you've used it or are comfortable with it, familiar with it, and a red X if you aren't. And then in the room here, can I just see a show of hands on people who have used Turnitin or feel a little comfortable with it?
Used it.
Maybe,
okay,
really just a few.
Yeah.
And then how does the list look in the participants list? And then the other thing we're going to have everyone do right now, and then we'll get into this, on your device, if you could go to Blackboard and open up one of your sandboxes or an old course that you're not using anymore, and just be at the ready. You can get this going as we speak here. How did it turn out? Just a couple others? Okay. So Turnitin, what it is it's a tool that will allow you to review and potentially guide and improve student learning on their writing. There are 3 pieces to it. There'll be a place for your faculty feedback. And the reason there's colors here is because inside of Turnitin, they will identify the faculty feedback in blue. There is similarity feedback, or it's not really a plagiarism check, but it's looking for similar wording in a number of different places, like other student writing, like internet, and publications. And then the last one is in purple, and that's a grammar spelling mechanics check. A limitation on the grammar spelling is that you're limited to 64,000 characters, so it may not catch the end of your paper for that kind of piece. So the 4 people who are going to help us out today, we have Luisa online in Zoom, and if we could spotlight Luisa's video, and Luisa, you'll have to unmute yourself. And they're just going to kind of talk about their experiences with it, and then we will go ahead and do a little application. We have her?
You have to stop sharing your screen.
Hello.
Hi, Luisa.
So do you want me to just talk about how I'm using Zoom or using Turnitin?
Correct.
So I've been using Turnitin for about a year. I started using it with just one course as a pilot for with the students. I use it to grade all of the papers. I like the fact that I can set up quick marks that and I think Meg will visit about this a little bit later, but set up quick marks so that I can directly link parts of the paper to the rubric, and I don't have to type the same thing over and over again. And I can link that quick mark in, and then I can add my own feedback in addition to the quick mark that's already set up. The student is able to see all of my feedback plus the feedback that comes through the grade mark through Turnitin, and I like the fact that those are together in one place. And from my understanding from the students, they're able to print that whole report that includes their paper and all of my feedback. The survey that I did with the students the first time I used it, overwhelmingly they liked that way of getting feedback from the instructor. Another nice piece is I can actually see if a student has looked at the feedback or not, which is good to see when I have a student that's making kind of the same errors over and over again. So just in general, I find that it's, I like the way it's organized. I like the way I'm able to give consistent feedback to students, and the students appreciate that as well.
Thank you, Luisa.
Yep.
Next, we have Dennis Feltwell online as well.
Greetings from Florida, everybody. I really like Turnitin.
We need volume. Hold on just a moment.
Sure. How's that? Is that better?
I'm maxed out. Can you help?
On his microphone. His microphone.
Dennis, can you increase your microphone a little bit?
Let me give it a try here.
Bottom left corner, there's an up arrow next to the microphone, audio options, and you can test mic, speaker mic, and increase the volume. If there's a little check box marked, it is, you might need to uncheck the check box for automatic. You seeing it?
It is. Hold on a second.
Dennis, I'm going to have
How's
you.
that? Is that better?
Oh, much better. Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. So anyway, I really enjoy using Turnitin, especially when compared to a lot of other products. Here in Florida, we use Canvas, and we're using VeriSite here. And also, with other institutions where they use Blackboard, they use the Safe Assign. And I've noticed that really when I want an accurate picture of the similarity score, Turnitin seems to give the best of those options. It seems to be the best. It gives the most direct sources. The similarities are easy to see, and then you can check for citation. What is the student doing? Things like that. The other side of it is the quick marks, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but they're customizable, so I get to put my own quick marks in there, which is very nice, and I get to do. I get a lot of variety. Plus, I get to use those audio features. I don't usually use the video feature too often on my feedback, but I do use the audio a lot. In addition to all the written comments which are on the page, I also get to give them some encouraging feedback with the voice, which is really nice. It gives it that personal touch, especially in the completely online courses.
Thanks, Dennis. And if you and Luisa will hang around for questions, and there may be some that you can respond to. The two others that are going to be talking with us today are both from Library Services, and they're in the room. We have Julie Rusted and Heidi Johnson. I'm just going to turn the mic towards you guys so that it's directional.
Hi, I'm Julie Rusted. I'm the Distance Education Librarian, and I have used Turnitin in a number of ways. Mostly, I have used it for working with students when they've come to the library and they've asked to have a paper looked at to look for plagiarism. I've also used it in some of my online courses that I've taught. So I teach a course in project management and also in research methods. I haven't embedded Turnitin into Blackboard yet. I will be doing that for the first time this semester, the summer session. But in the past, I have given the students mostly as an option. I was using it more as a teaching tool so that they could go in and they could look at their grammar and they could look at areas where they were citing information and things to look for areas where they may need to adjust their writing and things like that. So this semester will be the first time now where I will actually embed Turnitin into my online course, and I will be using more of the quick marks this time, and I will actually be using the video content and stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that. It looks like it's going to go very easily and smoothly for students, and as a bonus, I'll be able to download the original format that they turn into Turnitin without it having to reformat the entire paper, and I'll be able to keep that in my files in case I need to go back and look at it at a future date.
Thanks.
Hi, and I'm Heidi Johnson. I'm the other librarian in the room, and we, as an institution, have had Turnitin since 2005. So I think that's also helpful to know that we do have some longevity with this. And just recently, we've been able to embed it with Blackboard. So up until now, students, when you wanted them to use Turnitin, they had to submit their paper to Turnitin separately from Blackboard if you were using Blackboard as where you were having the students be graded. So that was kind of a little bit clunky for students, and I think some students felt that that was a bit confusing. Having it now be a part of Blackboard, I think, will help ease that out. So I'm very, very curious to see how much more Turnitin will start being used by faculty now that it will be in the same spot. How I've used Turnitin is I've also had it be part of the online courses that I have taught. I have also used the peer review feature in Turnitin, so I just wanted to kind of alert people to that option. Again, if you're teaching distance students and you want to have that part of the learning process be peer editing and that formative process, that also is available in Turnitin. You can have Turnitin, anonymously assign them or not, and then they can receive a paper from one of their classmates that they can then review. And you can set up rubrics for them, you can set up comments for them. I felt it was really important to teach students how to give formative assessment because they don't necessarily know how to do that. So for this experience to be a positive learning experience for everybody, I felt that also should be part of the assignment. But that's something that Turnitin can do. The other piece to Turnitin is kind of what Meg kind of talked a bit about, and that is plagiarism. So Julie and I have both helped faculty who have come to us saying, look, I feel like this paper suddenly took an interesting turn. Now the font is different, the color of the font is different, the tone of it is different. I feel they may be copied and pasted somewhere and did not have a citation, which is what plagiarism is. So I know that I've helped faculty do that, and honestly, I just helped 2 Dignitas faculty earlier this week who had 2 papers. They were evaluating them and trying to get them in under the deadline for grades, and unfortunately that's when this always happens. It's always Christmas time and summertime when these papers come. The students have left for the semester, and now what do you do with this paper that feels like it's plagiarized? And Turnitin can be a tool where that can be submitted, and then we can provide them with that originality report, and then from there they can evaluate that and see what to do. So that is an option that Turnitin has had as well. So even if you're not using it as part of the learning process, although we really do recommend that, we do feel that that's the best way that students can use Turnitin. It is also that safety net that you might need at some point. And we have set it up in Blackboard so that there is a course that we have access to that we can submit an assignment for you if you don't want to learn anything about Turnitin, but just know that that's an option for you. Then there is a way that we can do that and check papers. So.
Okay, thanks, Heidi.
Yeah.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the workshop piece of this quickly, just so that I want to make sure that you've at least done it once, then we'll address the quick marks and some other things. So everyone is going to be opening up their Blackboard course, and those online, if you would do that as well, that would be perfect. Oh, that is not what I wanted. I want this. All right, so what Heidi alluded to is that there is a course that all students are enrolled in. It's called Tech Tips for Students. Inside of there, they have three possibilities or places where they can submit an assignment and do a check before they send a paper to you. So they're able to go in there, submit their paper, get feedback from Turnitin. We are not providing feedback from any faculty or the library or anything like that. This is just something that students can do on their own. So again, that, yeah. This is the course. And I think that we're talking about also placing it in a course that is available to all of you, which would be like Blackboard, instructor resources, something like that. So the students come into this course where they have lots of things and possibilities of learning and getting started. They click on checking your papers. There's some instruction here for them. There's some recordings in addition to the text instructions. They go down to the bottom here. These are those 3 spots where they can submit a paper. They can submit up to 3 in each of these. So they click on view complete, they submit a paper, they get an email from Turnitin, they say it's ready, tells them where they had submitted it. They go back, they click on it again, and they get their feedback right here in the same spot. The second and third time they do that, it actually overwrites. So let's say they did check paper number 1 and they submitted a second time there, it's going to overwrite that first one. And they can do it a third time and it'll overwrite. After that, it holds it for 24 hours or something like that. So we just wanted to make sure that they had a few places to submit.
Okay.
Yes?
What kind of, is this purely plagiarism stuff? A
Nope.
plagiarism check for students? So what feedback do they get?
Okay, so let's do this. We'll go to
Similarity reports could be plagiarism because those are words that will be matched to websites, other student papers, that sort of thing. And that might trigger them, oh, that's right, I got this from there. I need to have a citation attached to it to avoid plagiarism.
What else would the similarity report tell you other than?
tells you where it's from, tells you lots of places where it's from.
Which is all linked to plagiarism.
No, it isn't. It could be simply quotes that come out from their citations. You could be seeing something totally legit within their paper, which is why it isn't. It's just really telling you where it's coming from.
It also can be attaching to the reference list of bibliography. It'll mark things like that. Any common words that come up.
So students are getting this feedback.
Yes. they'll be able to
Correct.
review it.
And you'll see it as well. When you go into grade, you'll see the feedback that they got. You can hide it too. If you don't want to know what they were, what was highlighted for them, and if you're not concerned about that piece of it, you can hide that from your view and simply focus on your faculty feedback. And it's just dragging here. Sorry, everybody. I'm not going to be able to show that to you right now. So instead, we are going to go back into.
Ask a quick question.
Absolutely.
So with Turnitin, if they take something verbatim and they don't have quotations, does just putting a reference there get them out of, because that's still plagiarism, if you just take the words and put a reference there, right?
That's academically using outside resources. So that's providing credibility for their content. You know, again, it always goes back to what are the objectives for your paper. So if the paper is a lit review and you want them to pull in lots of different resources and they correctly cite them, it will give you a percentage of how much of the paper has been matched. So it could be an 80% match, and it'll be read and people will think, oh my goodness, this is a plagiarized paper. But if it's a lit review, and that is the purpose of the paper, and it's all been correctly cited, so there's paraphrasing, but they have a citation, there's quotes, but it's quotation marks, they have a citation, and the reference list will also be part of that percentage. You can exclude that in the advanced settings, but that's legit. But if it's like a reflection paper where they're supposed to reflect on, you know, a patient experience they had, and it's supposed to all come from their head, and 5% of the paper was completely copied and pasted from some other brilliant reflection that they found online that they didn't cite, that could be plagiarized. So the percentage is not what you need to look at. You need to think about what's the intent of the assignment and are there citations? And then you can dig deeper. Are they correct? Do I care? Was this a first draft? So, you know, maybe they're there, so they're trying to get credit where credit's due, but they're not perfected yet. because that is a very upper level thinking skill to integrate outside resources into their writing. And that's what I feel one of the number one problems our students have in general is trying to integrate outside resources and use them to support what they're
Are you able
saying,
to help
support
them
their
online?
thesis.
Can they hear this?
So yeah, so that'll be part of either in the sample that Meg has for the tech tips when you want students to use this as a teaching tool and you even encourage them to go and do this on their own, they will get that similarity report for that paper that they can look at and then double check to make sure that anything that's pulled in, now common things, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that will be highlighted as a direct similarity from a million websites. But is that something that's plagiarized? No. So this requires interpretation of faculty and also I think of students to understand how to use that. But that is a great tool for them to look at that report and say, oh, that's right, this paragraph I did use this from somewhere. I better make sure I have a citation to be academically honest.
I'm having incredible technical difficulties today. My laptop died and now I'm having trouble just getting into Blackboard and having it load.
I have a question, Meg.
I want Heidi and Julie, when you talk, to maybe come up here and we'll turn this.
It seems like we're getting a lot of questions about what students see. And so I guess what I would ask is if Sarah or Eric or Nikki, anyone else can get into that tech tip site that you can share your screen. Like that. Okay, part of the reason that the site might be running slow and locking up is because every student is automatically enrolled into this site. So it's a great resource for them, but when we want to go in there and play and show things, it kind of really slows things down because we have a lot of students.
Okay, one thing I can show you right now, this is a result, and I apologize that I can't show you other than this, but so this is the kind of thing that the kind of feedback that the students will get once they've submitted a paper and downloaded it at the end. Anything in red is the similarity report kind of information. It'll be highlighted in red. The blue, again, is faculty comments. These are what the quick marks will look like on the page for a download. Inside of Turnitin, when they hover over it, it'll provide additional information. You could write a novel there. I don't know how much you're limited to. Inline text stays and shows that I love this is actually just an inline comment, and that will show up. And then these yellow is where there were duplicate things. Purple is the grammar spelling. It's inside the paper itself, it's cleaner than this, but just so you're aware, at the end, it tells you where all of this information was found. It will then go into faculty comments. Any of the verbiage that followed the quick mark is listed there. Any that you have created on the fly are also there. These quick marks, the nice thing about them is you can have quick marks for the School of Nursing. They all want to use similar terms. You can download your set and share it with someone else and they can upload it. And then they can make changes and it's not reflected in your set. But at least you can have some common language between the different faculty members. And then at the end, you get the grammar spelling piece of it. Let's see if I'm in. Nope.
I would just mention with the grammar set, it's just be aware that it's a computer. It's not going to be 100%.
Julie, this way too.
It's not 100%, so you will have to kind of interpret it and look at it and make sure that it's correct. It may miss some things, but it is a nice tool and it will help catch some of those common comma splices and run-on sentences and things like that.
And passive voice?
Passive voice.
It is able to do that. And you can delete any grammar points that it brought up that you know are wrong if you want to make sure that it's more accurate for your students.
One thing, oh, go ahead, Beth.
So this Tech Tips course that all students are enrolled in, when are they introduced to it? How do they know they're enrolled in it and how to use it? Is there an introduction for them?
Generally, they learn about this in an orientation, but we know that in orientation they hear so many things. So we've been talking with Student Senate about how we can follow up maybe a week or two after that, where it might stick a little bit more with students, that there's these resources for them. But it's also something that you can tell them about in your own program orientations. We know there's a lot of program orientations that can refer to that, but in your syllabi, you might want to talk with them about that as well. We're going to be doing some campaigns at the start of the different semesters to let students know about that. We also don't want to bombard students with emails and notices, because then we know that they just won't listen.
And that's graduate students too?
All students.
Everything is just so slow.
Meg, can I mention one thing?
Absolutely.
So as we're looking at this, and I forgot to mention this when I did my little spiel at the start, when we talk about giving feedback, faculty feedback is just one piece, right? What I love about Turnitin or these programs is that the other part of that is we want students to self-regulate. We want students to monitor themselves, and these really allow them to do that, right? A program like this allows them to submit something. It allows them to see, what is it showing that, how much of this might be borrowed, grammatical feedback before they submit their paper. One of the pieces that I missed that our center could really help you with is the third idea is peer response. How can students help each other? And this happens to be an area that I totally focused my dissertation on. A very close study of peer response groups for 1 calendar year. And I have some great things that I learned about how students can help each other. One of the things that maybe some of these don't get at is that idea of what do you do if your student writers simply have bad ideas? It's just, this may not tell you your ideas are really bad, or you know what I mean? And if you have any questions about how to most effectively use peer response groups, I would love to help you with that. One of the simple things I learned in my study was that we can't expect students to do what we don't teach them. Sometimes we go into a classroom assuming that students innately are born with the ability to respond meaningfully to each other's papers. And it doesn't happen. If we don't do something in educating students about how to respond, what they will say is, boy, Chris, I love how you dot your I's with a heart. That is so great. And so if you ever want any help on how to make peer response groups work, and many professors are using those in online formats, I'd love to speak with you about that at any other time.
Thanks, Steve. I just pulled up some instruction that I had in another place. So we're not going to do it live, but you can see how it is that you can do this. My guess is when you try to submit right now, for whatever reason, because the Wi-Fi here, it's not going to happen. Are you able to get in to Blackboard? Can you get to your courses?
Yeah.
You can. Okay, so let's try this. So what you do, I want to give a little word of advice. You want to have some instruction before you have your Turnitin assignment. So whatever your instruction is, maybe copy it into an item that immediately precedes it, because your space for instruction in Turnitin is a little limited. So you go to Turnitin, to your Blackboard course, you're in a content area. So maybe Unit 1 or wherever it is that you want to place this. And then what you want to go is you want to go to the assessment at the top of the page. Yeah, I don't know if Amy and Nikki can kind of walk around if people have questions, and Eric perhaps.
Do you want me to share my screen and do it in Blackboard?
If you're in, absolutely. I can't get into anything. So let me stop, and Nikki's going to start. That would be great. I think I've got like some magnetic field around me. Andrew just thinks I'm crazy. I can tell by that look on your face. All right, so you're going to go to assessment and then Turnitin assignment. And you do have to be a little patient with some of these places. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Here's the peer mark assessment option. Sia is testing that, Sia Sauter, right now, and she thinks it's going to work just fine. So as soon as all the students have submitted their paper, Turnitin actually assigns it to different people to review, to the other students to review. So we're going to give paper assignment. Next step, this is one of the places that it's a little bit of a holdup, so just breathe.
So relaxation exercise and turn it into
Yoga, something.
or dual purpose.
This is really bothersome. So you have to give it a title. And just test or something like that. If you're going to use a Blackboard rubric with the Turnitin assignment, we are asking that you set the point value at 0 so that this column, the Turnitin column, is going to be a incomplete column, and then you're going to have your rubric column where you're assigning the points. So 0 points on the start date. We'll just leave it for right now, that's fine. The post date is when they can start to see their feedback, and you might want them to have feedback early. Maybe it's their draft, things like that. So I would do the same date, but be really careful of the AM, PM. You have to be a little bit after. So we need to be today's date after 10:02 a.m. You might. Perfect. Okay, and then we go to the optional settings. Is everybody able to find their way through this?
No questions.
How are they doing online? This is the special instruction where you would have put your instruction and it's only 1,000 characters. You could put something here though. What were we doing, Julie?
In mine, I actually told students that this was the area where they would be able to come back to see the grammar feedback, the similarity report, and specific instruction on writing an APA format. And if they wanted to get in, they needed to see the item instructions in order to see the instructions, and then also the other column to get the rubric, Blackboard rubric, and overall general feedback on the assignment.
The point value.
And I also included the video instruction and the Google Doc for students to look at the overall feedback. I also included links to both.
So here's something to keep in mind. This is the similarity report. You can shut it off if you don't want it. Julie has one assignment where she's not using it. This is where, what is that one? Sorry. So this they can submit until due. They can submit additional papers until due. You can exclude some materials from here. If we go down a little bit, whether you want the students to see the similarity report, the grading, it's just on the date. You'll have to read through these. I do want to show you that the standard paper repository. So the course, that Tech Tips for Student course, we have it set up where those papers are not going to the repository. So students can check their grade and then submit it later where it might be going into the repository. That way they're not going to get slammed with 100% copy once they get over to the final submittal.
I also did that for my courses because my course, they are writing a capstone proposal, and every writing assignment in the course is built upon each other, and then it can be added to the capstone proposal. And then they'll also be able to use content into the actual 2 capstone courses. And so I actually set all of my assignments up so it does not go to the repository, because as they go later into the courses and they're submitting their chapters for the capstone, if it was going to the repository, it would be coming back as 100% plagiarized.
But there is like a department here. One of the main reasons why they wanted to use Turnitin is because they saw so much plagiarism between students. And so they have the same assignments, and it was in an accelerated program. So every 2 months they had different students that were taking the same assignments, and they saw a lot of cheating where students were passing the assignments on to their peers that were below them. And so they wanted to use Turnitin purely to have those papers added to the student paper repository so that then they could see, oh yeah, it's not just me going crazy. This was submitted 2 semesters ago by, you know, Sally Friendly. And so that was helpful for them as a program to be able to use Turnitin to try to lock that down.
And do know that when it goes to the repository, it goes to the whole Turnitin repository. It's not just the CSS repository. So some of your students might also feel uncomfortable with the knowledge that their paper is now been put out there for any Turnitin institution to compare to.
And it's important to assure the student that their anonymity is protected, so their name is not associated with that paper. All the association is that it is from the College of St. Scholastica. And it is tied to the professor who had the course set up. So it is possible that as a professor you might be sent an email saying, hey, this paper was submitted by my student in California, and can you tell me more about it? We as a college do not have a policy that says how much you can share with that other faculty person in another campus. So you need to think about privacy and think about protecting our students. I've had that request, and I have just verified that yes, it was a paper that was sent, submitted by the student, but I never shared any more information about that particular student or the paper. So that's something that as a department you might want to think about as we're using Turnitin more widely. But their information is not connected to their paper, so that is something to assure students when they are concerned about it being sent to the repository. But we have had students who have requested specifically that their papers don't get sent to the repository, and that's something also you might want to talk about as a department. What do you do then? What policy do you have for those kinds of outlier requests?
Can you make individual, like, you change it, right?
No,
just
it's an
the assignment
assignment.
level.
But what you could do is that maybe then you could go back to that Tech Tips course and submit it there and at least see what you're getting back for them, and that's not sent to the repository. There's been some questions surrounding the difference between grading with just Turnitin and Turnitin and Blackboard, but I know we're running late. I don't know what you want to do here. I apologize with my technical difficulties. It's like 8 after or something.
We are going to have a follow-up session on Turnitin in August. And what you might do if you've had a chance to play with it between now and then, be able to ask more of these questions. Really, the difference between using Turnitin in Blackboard is that your grades are automatically put into Blackboard versus Turnitin outside of Blackboard. So it's going to save everybody a step and be much more transparent in that, okay? There are some complications when you're using Turnitin in Blackboard if you use a rubric for grading. Because we have some specialized instructions there, and Meg's done a great job with that. And basically, you use 2 columns in Grade Center, and Meg walks you through that. One is for the Turnitin type of feedback, the other is for your rubric type of feedback, and you'll simply direct students to both. Okay, so they get 2 for the money.
So in here, this one you're setting up right now, you can just select it with no rubric associated with it. And then you would go ahead and submit, and you'll see that it's inside of your Blackboard course. The students, when they would go to it, they simply click on it. They are allowed to submit their paper there. They get their email later saying it's done. They go back to the same assignment. They click on it again, and then they can review similarity and the grammar spelling. And then if you provided faculty feedback, that would be there as well. Luisa or Dennis, anything to add? I know this is kind of didn't go exactly as planned. They probably didn't hear me. Dennis or Luisa?
Yeah, well, I haven't yet used this embedded in part of the assignment. But I've been starting to play around with it. I'm teaching a course that's opening up on Monday, and looking forward to that. I know that the repository issue is one that what I usually do. We do a writing intensive course with a draft, and so usually with the draft I don't submit to the repository, and I find that makes the similarity problem typically go away. I also exclude the bibliography in a lot of cases because the paper is incomplete, and the bibliography usually takes a standard format, and that usually skews the similarity numbers as well. But the peer mark assignment is really good too, because we can, much like the quick marks, we can also have a standard series of questions that we could save each semester to ask specific questions about specific assignments. And I find that it saves a lot of time. I set up my course right now. What I've been doing is just creating the site in Blackboard and giving students access to the course. I have them practice a little bit with other papers, and I don't submit to the repository for those either. Just so they become familiar with it, because by the time we get to the last two assignments, which is the rough draft and the final research paper, I want them to be comfortable using the tool itself. I find that the peer mark assignment is very helpful. I often joke, I want students to feel my pain. You only have to read one, I have to read all of them. So, but I found that the students, when they give me feedback about the course, one of the things they like to talk about is how they got to see how other students write. Apparently, a lot of students aren't collaborating with one another when it comes to writing. Everyone seems to be working completely alone, and that seems to be. Then, when they see another writing style, they found things that they like about how the other student wrote or didn't like about how the other student wrote, and then they can see what the differences are. And then sometimes they even come back to me and say, well, I felt like I was a little harsh in my review, and what should I think about it? And then we can talk about how to make a good paper better all the time. I find that peer mark assignment can be very useful. I encourage that in closing. So.
Thank you. Luisa, anything to add?
I think just, just to know from our RN to BS program, we've been using Turnitin for all of our written assignments for at least 3 years, really just as a plagiarism checker, because we have so many students in our courses run in 8-week terms. We are really working now towards using it more as a tool to allow the students to see the feedback and make changes and resubmit their papers. All of our papers are submitted to the repository. And we're also working towards using the Turnitin embedded in Blackboard. So we're really working towards using it more as a tool, plus the plagiarism checker, and that seems to be a good move for our program.
Thanks, Luisa. I am available to meet with people and do a small workshop. This probably wasn't the place to have that piece of it, but we tried. At least you know it's there. If you want to direct students to tech tips for students, they can go to that course and try it. We could see about getting people enrolled there, or we'll put it in Amy's course. Can we add one in there, Amy? So, because all faculty have your course available, correct? The
instructor resource course?
Yes.
Yes, and there is a place for Turnitin submission there, and there are
okay, it's in there already
as well.
Okay, so you could go to that course. What's the name of it again?
Instructor resource teaching with Blackboard. All teachers are automatically enrolled in it.
And you're enrolled as a student there, so you would see what the student experience would be.
I will be showing that course when I talk here in another 20 minutes or so.
And again, my apologies for my technical difficulties here. Are we ready for Nikki? Okay.
We want to take a break.
You want to take a break?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I learned from students who using Turnitin last year. Great experience. Thank you, Heidi. That it takes longer. They say it takes longer when you resubmit assignments. Can you
Yeah, what happens if you resubmit assignment, if you resubmit an assignment, it depends on how it is set up. You can resubmit and you'll get that feedback right away. As soon as you go beyond this, there's a magic number of 3.
Okay.
You can only do the 3 of them. As soon as you submit a 4th one, it holds it for 24 hours. And so we have that in our instructions for the tech tips to students too as well. So that way they have those 3 options. That's why I said they had 9 possibilities to submit. Once they go beyond that, they can still submit, but it's going to be 24 hours before they get the report
So
back.
it keeps them from hitting resubmit, overloading the Turnitin systems, I imagine, or?
How many drafts are you going to check?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the reason would be. possibly. And for, you know, if you're going to use this, you could set up your course where you've got a draft spot that has no repository, and then you've got your assignment spot. Students come here, they can submit it, they can check it out, they can make improvements, and then come back in to submit their paper.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, let's do a break. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We'll join back.